again. If you believe in determinism, if you don't, there's probably not any point in you watching this. But if you believe in determinism, then your whole life, everything happened as a result of your brain reacting to its environment. And it changes. It's as your environment changes, as your brain learns more, then its understanding, its perception of what the world is like and who you are and how you fit into that, it's all determined by the brain reacting to the circumstances of your life. So you get to this point, wherever you are, and you come to the realization that everything in your life was determined, and everything that happens from here on out will be determined in the same way. The whole thing, beginning to end, is just, cause and effect playing themselves out. So you come to that realization and you say, well, my life's determined. How do I proceed? And the way you proceed is the way you always have. Because the way you always have proceeded was just your brain trying to make the best of a situation. That's it. And you will continue to be in situations, and your brain will continue, hopefully, to function normally and try to figure out what the situation is and how you fit into it. Well, you don't know what that is, right? You have to wait around and see, because it all happens for us human beings over time. And so how that can free you in as far as no free will, everything's determined. What does freedom even mean? Well, it means, for one thing, I'm not locked up. But for another thing, it means that my brain's trying to figure a problem out, right? So it looks at the circumstances of my life, and it says, how did I get here? And what mistakes were made along the way? And what were good things that happened that I'd like to have more of? And in answering those questions and looking at my life and answering those questions for anybody, you can see what the influences were. I mean, you can't see all of them in every detail, because everything that's ever happened all plays together. But the big picture, you can comprehend, because we all grow up in a culture, a subculture probably, if it's a big country like ours. So that culture is our world, and that's what our brain reacts to in building a picture of itself. It builds a picture of the world and how it fits in. So if you can expand that view and say, yeah, that's what happened to everybody in the whole world. And then you can ask the question, why should I be happy with this culture that I was born into, and with the way influences have shaped me ever since? Is there anything in that progression of events that I, in my current state, which is as a result of all this, I, in my current state, would prefer to have more of or less of? And that becomes part of the information your brain uses to make the decision that don't have to live by the values of this little Southern Baptist community that I grew up in. I mean, that's a tiny part of the world, right? And so why should I restrict myself to that? Why don't I look at the wider world, at the way human beings behave, and at the history of how human beings behave, with this understanding that everybody along the way is just responding to circumstances. But look at that and come to some kind of understanding of where you would like to be, the kind of person that you would like to be. And that it can happen. You know, you can become that kind of person if your brain realizes that it would be better off, that its body budget would be lower if it disregarded some of the things it learned because they're wrong and they do not lead to the well-being of the organism. So disregard those, leave those off. There are other things that you can see that, well, this did help advance the well-being of the organism. So let's do more of this. So realizing that everything is determined and that you got to this place you are by determined factors, it, like I say, it gives you an opportunity to look at the wider world and say, why should I be this hick kid from the South, you know, the little town in the South? I could be someone else. What would be a better thing to be? And, you know, look at all the books you've ever read, the movies you've watched and everything. What would it be a better way to be? And well, this way of looking at the world, the way I've been talking about for like 12, 13, this 13 episodes, right? This way of looking at the world, it takes so much anger and hostility out of it. Like, I have a friend who wants to talk to me about politics. And, you know, from her point of view, it's like there are good guys and there are bad guys. Trump was one of the bad guys, you know. And people, because they have free will, we can hate them for choosing to do the bad things that they did. Well, if you realize they are just as much a victim of circumstances as you are, then, you know, you can't hate them for just doing the best they could under the circumstances with the values that they got. You know, it's just nobody chose the influences that made them who they are. And when you realize that, and you realize that all those accidental circumstances that you encountered, it made you who you are. Yes. I got a little lost there. uh, so many avenues. But oh, the point I was trying to make a few minutes ago, however long it uh, was that you can lower your stress levels. You know, hating people takes a lot of energy, and it's bad for you. You know, bad for your immune system. You know, raise your cortisol levels and all that. So, you know, those things are bad for you. And the thing is, if you eliminate those things, all that hatred and hostility and anger, it doesn't mean that you can't still do something about the situation. You know, campaign against Trump or whoever. Vote for somebody else. It's there are things that you can do that don't require you getting angry. So do those things. It's a lot easier on your system to just rationally say, what's the best thing I can do under the circumstances? So that's an advantage of seeing your life in those terms. You can see how it would be improved if you disregarded all that shit you learn about people being bad and doing bad, awful things, including you and everything. It's just the history of the universe playing itself out. And you can get embroiled in these little controversies about who's right and who's wrong and who's bad and who's good and everything. And you forget that this is a tiny little moment in the history of the universe. And the universe is going to move right on past it. It's going to keep on going. I mean, what's happening now will be a part of whatever comes to be. But you don't have to, well, as a Buddha would say, you don't have to suffer because of it. You know, you can eliminate the suffering part, still act on your beliefs or whatever, but make it easy on yourself. So, the freedom that comes with knowing you don't have free will is that you can become someone who's a lot happier because you understand the process. And understanding the process changes who you are and changes how your brain approaches new circumstances. So really, understanding the process is fundamental, and you can't be restricted by your fears that the reality of our situation is going to turn out to be unmanageable. I mean, you know, it's like if you try to think how you would design it and make it differently, I can't come up with anything. Evolution, you know, dealing with a lot of variables here. Anyway, the whole process is awesome. It's just amazing to be embroiled in this whole project. It's nobody's project, this process. Anyway, so that's enough for now. Bye.